All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott, formerly of Rankin Technical College. Been gone for about a week or so, just taking in the holiday or whatever you want to call it, but I am back. And what I'd like to do, first of all, is to go into this BMI payroll thing. I just want to open up the folder with code, okay? And I'm going to close whatever I have open. I don't want anything to be open right now. All right? There's nothing in here, as you can see right now. What I'm going to do first, I want to do two things in here. The first thing that I want to do is to quickly show you something about creating your own module. So what I'm going to do is I've created that calculator. Then I did a calculator version 2. So I'm going to create what did I call it? Calculator 03 is what I'm going to call this one. Let me rename that. .py. All right, there's nothing in there right now, but what I'm going to do quickly is I'm going to add everything that was in calculator 2. It's right here. This is the same one that I've done before. All right, why am I doing this? Why am I taking the time to do this? Well, the reason for this is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create in here a new file that I'm going to call math.py. All right, and in math.py, which is currently empty, I'm going to go in and I'm going to grab my add, my subtract, my multiply, my divide 2, my mod 2, and my exponentiation. In fact, let's grab the check for divide by 0 as well. All right, so all I'm going to do, this program is not going to become very short, but I'm going to do a Control X. Now I've removed all of them. You can see how much smaller the program is now. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to math.py here, and I'm going to paste it in. So that's all these functions in here, and I'll paste it in. Don't worry about the errors. I'm not even sure why I'm getting them, but it's okay. All right. So it says right here, oh, I'm trying to redo the math. So let's rename this. So instead of calling it math.py, I'm going to call it JPS math.py. Now all the errors are gone. Okay? So I've taken all of my math stuff and I put all of it into its own module called JPS math.py. So anytime I'd ever want to go and use add, subtract, multiply, divide, etc., I'm now able to do that. All right? So you might say, well, big deal, what did this do for you? Well, let's go back to our calculator function. And this is the stuff that we said we're going to put in here. Let's go and add in here modules. All right? Now, I've got JPS Math, and you'll notice that in here I imported NumPy as NP. I'm going to also import JPS Math as, we'll just call it JPS. All right? Now you might say, who cares? Why'd you even do that? I want to show you that right now. Now, in here, this is where I'm calling add to, subtract to. You can see I get nothing but errors in here because these files aren't defined anymore. But if I come in and say jps.add2, jps.subtract2, jps.multiply2, jps.divide2, jps.intDivide2, jps.mod2, and jps.expo2. Now I believe at least all of my errors are gone. So what did I do? Why did I do this? What did this accomplish? Well, I've now broken my program up into multiple files. I've got my calculator 03. All right. And I've got my JPS math.py, which is a module. I'm adding that module to my program right here. Okay, let's pretend, just for a second, let's pretend all right, that I didn't need the add, the subtract, the multiply, the divide, etc. Let's just for a second, let's pretend that the only thing that I need in here is the add. All right. Well, I could say from JPS math. Is it add? No. Import add 2. So if I did that, the only thing, if I got rid of this, I'm not going to, but if I got rid of this and only kept that, then the only one available to me would be add 2. The reason I'm showing you this is sometimes you want to bring in a module, whether it's yours or a built-in Python module, but you don't want all of it. So you can tell it, Python, if you only want part of it available. Well, I want all of this to be available. And now you'll notice in here, this hasn't changed. All right, we're still inputting the number, etc. We're still flipping them if necessary, so the bigger number comes first. Where it's changed is in here. And that is, rather than calling add 2, because it does not exist anymore in calculator 03, it's jps.add2. Now, when we did this, remember, I made an alias as JPS. If I'd have left that off and just imported JPS math, then all of these would have had to have been JPS math. Okay, let's see if it still works. All right, enter first value, 567. Enter second value, 234. All right, now it doesn't like something in here. Oh, it's because it's too big of a number. For the result is going to be too large. So let me do this. So let me run it again. And let's just do something fairly simple in here, okay? So we'll put in here 56 and 81. And that might be too big too. How about just 12? So there's 56 plus 12, 56 minus 12, 56 times 12, 56 divided by 12 with a floating point divide, 56 divided by 12 with an integer divide, 56 modulo 12, and 56 raised to the 12th power. So you can see it still works. All right. I just wanted to bring that up so that you've been introduced to modules. Okay. All right. So let me do a file save all here, or just the save, I guess. Get rid of this, do another file save, and get rid of this. All right. I'm going to clear this out, and I'm going to close this. Now, I want to grab something from a program. I had been working on this before. Let me just grab one of these. There we go. Grab all of this. Okay. So I'm going to come in here and create a new file. So I'm going to come in here, create a new file, and I'm going to call it in here. I'm going to call it, I'm going to call it BMI.py. All right, and I'm going to paste this in, and we're going to go over all of it right now. All right. Okay. So this is the next program that I'm going to do. Okay. As you can see, this program will ask an individual to input his or her height and his or her weight. Then, depending upon the height and weight answered, it will run this formula right here to figure out their BMI, or body mass index. As it says up above there, BMI is used to show whether you're underweight, of optimal weight, overweight, or obese for your height. The weight, as it says there, will be inputted in pounds and whole numbers. It doesn't make any sense to say I weigh 175.5 pounds. Height will be in inches, and it'll also be an int. So again, although you might say you're 6'1½", you know, I'm just going to say instead for that, I'm going to say 61 inches or 62 inches. If the input is valid, the program should calculate and display both the body mass index, or BMI, and a message that indicates whether a person is underweight, of optimal weight, overweight, or obese for their height. These are the metrics. These are not mine. Somebody else came up with these. If you've got a BMI that is less than 18.5, you're considered underweight for your height. If you have a BMI that's greater than or equal to 18.5, but that BMI is less than 25, you're considered of optimal weight. If you have a BMI that's greater than or equal to 25, but is less than 30, you're considered overweight. And if you've got a BMI that's 30 or above, you're considered obese. Notice it says there use constants, which is kind of interesting. I'm going to show you how constants were implemented, but first I want to show you something that was in, and hopefully I come back up here. There we go. An article that I found online. And in particular, this paragraph here that's in blue. No, there it is. Python does not support constants or non-reassignable names. Using uppercase, which is what I'm going to do, is a convention, but it doesn't stop the programmer from taking whatever value we put into our quote, constant, unquote, and giving it another value. All right, so technically, there are no real constants in Python. All right. Now, here's a couple of other things that we're going to put in here. Now, I picked out some arbitrary values. They're arbitrary, but I think they made sense. I'm saying that a person, their height has to be between 12 inches, you know, a baby when they're born should usually be 12 inches or more, and 96 inches, which is 8 feet. So the input for the height must be between those two. If either we enter a number less than 12 or a number greater than 96 or nothing at all or a non-numeric value, we should get an error message. In much the same way, the weight, I put a minimum there of 1 and a maximum of 777. So you'll notice for height minimum and height maximum, weight minimum and weight maximum, I'm going to use these quote constants, unquote. And they're going to be in uppercase, but since technically Python doesn't have constants, you could change those values. I'm just not going to. So again, if you put in a value less than 1 or greater than 777 or no value or a non-numeric, you'll get an error message. All right. We're going to let the user run the program multiple times as they desire. In addition, because they may run it multiple times, we'll keep track of the total number of underweight people there are, the total number of optimal weight people there are, the total number of overweight people there are, and the total number of obese people there are. These will all be inputted at the end of the program. All right, I've added some stuff in here, and this might end up changing over time. All right, but we've got math in here. This OS is going to allow us to clear the screen. The import lib, I don't remember why I put it in it, but we'll get back to it. Time should allow me to set a timer in the program. All right. Now, here are the constants that I used. I want to quickly explain them. All right. Min height is the smallest height that's considered to be a valid input. That's 12 for 12 inches. Max height is the largest height that's allowed for a valid input, and that's 96 inches. Min weight is 1. Max weight is 777 for the minimum allowable weight and the maximum allowable weight. Then notice I've got 3 more values in here. I'm going to use these 3, min optimal, min over, and min obese. I'm going to use those values after I've created and calculated the BMI. And what I can say is if the calculated BMI is less than this, the person will be considered underweight. Else, if it's less than this, the person will be considered optimal weight. Else, if it's less than this, the person will be considered overweight. Else, if it's that or greater, the person will be considered obese. Now, I started to work on this, and it is actually, in my experience, it's considered totally okay to create global constants like this. All right? I'm telling you, it's okay to create global constants. What I also did in here was I created these, some global variables. Height, weight, so that'll be the inputted height, the inputted weight, the calculated BMI, the calculated BMI status, and your counters of total underweight people, total optimal weight people, total overweight people, and total obese people. And that's all I've got in here. All right? What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to take these and I'm going to comment them out. Why? Because I'd like to create this program and have no. All right? I'd like to create this program and have no global variables. One thing I do want to do, all right, in here is I want to create what's called, in most programming languages, a function called main. For now, I'm going to just put pass in there. All right? Remember, pass just means basically I'm going to add this stuff later. I'm going to actually add some stuff here in just a minute, but I want you to hear this first. All right? Main is a driver. The job of main is to have actually as little executable code in the program as possible. But what main will hopefully do, what main will do, is call other functions. And they'll do the job. So think about what we want in here for other functions. We have to first, we have to input the height. All right, next, we're going to input the weight. Next, we're going to calculate the BMI. Next, we're going to calculate, spell that wrong, the BMI status. Again, that's underweight, optimal weight, overweight, or obese. All right, next, we want to print height, weight, BMI, and BMI status. All right, finally, we'll ask the user if she or he wants to run the program again. If yes, input height, input weight, ... In other words, do everything we did up above in here. Eventually, if no, all right, print the values of each total weight counter. All right. Now this is what I want to do in main. How am I going to do this? All right. Well, the first thing I want to do is input the height, right? Now this may change over time, but let's do this. Let's create a variable called height. And we'll say height equal input height. Input height. Okay, now I'm getting an error because that doesn't exist. So I'll come down here and I will do a def input height. And again, I'll just put pass in there. That should, the error is now gone. All right. Then for weight, I'm going to input the weight. Now again, I'll get an error right here because I haven't written this yet. All right, so there's that error. So I'll just take what I've got here, and I'm going to hit enter a few times. I'm going to copy this. But instead of input height, I'll have input weight. All right, so next I want to calculate the BMI. Oops. So next I want to calculate the BMI, so I'll say BMI equal calculate BMI, and it will need the height and it will need the weight. All right. So let's put that in there. Now, when we do this, we don't have to call them height and weight. I'm going to call them, for simplicity's sake, H and W. And again, we'll just put a pass in here. Whoops. Pass. All right. So far, we've got height. We've got weight. We haven't put in the code yet. I understand that. All right. We've got this. So let's do the BMI status next. So BMI status. Oops. BMI status equals calculate the BMI status. Now, in order to do that, it's going to need the BMI. So let me copy all of this. Again, we'll write pass right here. All right. Then next, we want to print the height and the weight. So we'll call this print individual BMI info. Now, what are we printing? We're printing the height, we're printing the weight, we're printing the BMI, and we're printing the BMI status. So we're going to need all those. So again, I'm going to come down here. And we'll pass. Again, that's a lot of stuff, so we'll just say H instead of height, W instead of weight, BMI is fine, and let's call this ST instead of status. All right. So now we've got all this. Finally, when we have to ask the user if they want to run the program again. All right. So we'll say this again equal run program again. We won't pass anything, but we're going to have a routine called run program again. So let's def that one. And again, put in pass. Keep forgetting. Okay. And again, you'll notice I have no errors here. Finally, if it's yes, do everything again. If no, print out the values. So we'll call this print total counters. Okay. Now, what are those counters? Well, they were up here. Okay. So I'm going to actually put them in the main. And I'm going to, I'm going to uncomment these. But I have to pass all of these into print total counters. So I'll need total underweight, total optimal weight. I'm just going to put this over 2 lines. Total overweight and total obese. Okay, I'm going to grab all this. I'm going to come down to the bottom here. Okay, and again, I'll put a pass right there. And let's change this to under optimal, over, and obese. We'll just do it like that, just to simplify it. Okay, and then we'll need our colon here and pass. All right, so what I've done is I've framed everything I want to put into this program. Some of this stuff will be very easy to do. Some of it will be very hard to do. I shouldn't say very hard, but it'll be more difficult to do. So for instance, what I could do right here, where I've got this print total counters, that might be the easiest one to do. And I know I'm doing them a little bit out of order. All right. But I could come in here and say, as an example, print total. And I'm going to show you something else in here that we haven't talked about yet. Total number underweight people. So far, we've been doing that like this. And it's totally fine to do it like this. So total underweight. That's totally fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. But if you've had any experience using languages like, for example, JavaScript, you'll know that they use something that's called string interpolation, which allows you, rather than having to break out of your string to print the value of a variable, it lets you print it in the string itself. So I want to show you how to do that. To do that, you preface this with the letter F. You use what's called an F string. All right? And then you take what you want to print and you put it in curly braces. So you can see what I have right there. Total number underweight people. And then it'll give me a tab, and then it'll print my total underweight. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this, and I'm going to put all 4 of them in here. So this will be optimal weight. This will be overweight. And we'll call this, even though we'll call this obese weight. All right. Now, I don't have to do this, but let's line it up a little bit. All right. So this will be total optimal weight. This will be total overweight. And this will be total obese. Okay, so that's done. Pretty simple. That's why it wasn't that hard to do. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, as I get these done, kind of check them off. So in other words, this one is done. Okay, now notice that we also have this one, which is print our individual stuff. The height, the weight, the BMI, and the BMI status. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these 4 lines right here. We'll make some changes to them in just a moment. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to change what this all says, but I'm going to say height weight, BMI, and BMI status. All right, so this will end up being height. This will end up being weight. Now this will be the BMI, and it could be a really ugly number like 23.48572. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the BMI and I'm going to say round the BMI to 2 decimal places. Okay, because it'll just read a little nicer. And the status will be the BMI status. In fact, these have to be the same names I have here. So rather than height, that should be H. Rather than weight, that should be W. I kept that as BMI, and this will be ST. So that should print out as an example. If I put, let's say 72, in fact, let's just pretty it up even a little more than this. We'll put inches here. So if I put in 72, it'll say 72 inches. If I put in 200, it'll say 200 pounds. The BMI will be okay, and the BMI status will be okay as it is. So as of right now, don't know how I got that there, but I did. Get rid of that. I didn't goof it up here. Okay, so right now what I've done is I've kind of laid out for you how I want to do this. All right, and this is pretty easy too. This calculate BMI right here. This is pretty easy. Okay, because that's what it is. The BMI is going to be what? Well, I already put up here what the formula was. All right, so I can do this in a lot of ways, but I'm just going to show you a couple of them. What I can do is I can come down here where calculate BMI, and I can paste that in and then say return BMI. Totally fine. Nothing wrong with doing it like that. But I'm really creating a variable here when I don't need to. So what I can say here is just return weight, and it'll be not weight, but it'll be a W here. And this will be H, and that'll be H. And that's a W. All right. Now, I'm not doing this the way I would typically do it, but I'm trying to get through with, for lack of better words, kind of the easiest stuff first. All right. So now in here, I've done the BMI, or the calculate BMI, the print individual BMI info, and the print total counters. Well, let's do this calculate BMI status. All right. And we'll put that right where it is. So I'm going to say right here, status equals, and I'm not going to put anything in there. And then I'm going to say if BMI is less than min optimal. What that means is BMI is less than 18.5. All right, if that's the case, okay, the status is equal to underweight. Else, and remember it's not else if, it's elif, BMI, and you don't even need parens here, just so you know. I put them in because most languages require them, but you don't have to if you don't want to. So I could have left them off here. You'll notice if I remove them here, I won't get any errors. All right, some people think it reads better with parentheses. Some people think it reads better without parentheses. Draw your own conclusions. All right, so elif BMI is less than min over, which means that the BMI is greater than or equal to 18.5 and less than 25. If that's the case, the status is equal to optimal weight. All right, I forgot my colon there. All right, if the BMI is less than min obese, and that means I'm anal about all this stuff, so I'm trying to line stuff up here. That means that the BMI is greater than or equal to 25.0 and less than 30.0. If that's the case, the status is equal to overweight. All right. Now I could just put a final else in here, or I could put in elif. I should be able to just put in an else, because every BMI that I come up with should be either, something between 0 and something else. If it's real low, it'll be covered here. If it's real high, it should be covered here. So let's just put an else here. And we'll say status equals obese. And what that means is the BMI is greater than or equal to 30.0. Now I've got all these, and status is going to hold either this, or this, or this, or this. All right, but I have to return that back to the calling function. So return status. So that status that we're returning right there is going to be stuffed into BMI status right here. Just in the same way that the BMI that we're calculating right there, we're returning it and putting it in here. So now I've done calculate BMI, I've done calculate BMI status, I've done print individual BMI info, and I've done print total counters. All right, so I've got 3 functions left. I've got input height, I've got input weight, and I've got run program again. Now, I believe I've already written the run program again. I'm going to go and check. And if I did, yeah, we'll put it right here, because it'll give me time to explain everything to you. Okay? All right. So first of all, if we run this program right now, it's not even going to do anything, because we're never calling our main function to make things happen. We're never calling that. All right, and I'm going to leave it off for right now. But I'm going to go to where we are running the program again. I'm going to paste that in. All right. All right, now it's giving me some errors. It's giving me errors because of the way I've got things lined up here. Hopefully they'll go away soon. This print final totals is wrong. It is print total counters. So let's see. I'm going to have to make some changes from what I've done earlier. All right. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take these 2 lines and I'm going to comment them out. And I want to go over everything that's happening in here. All right. So when we get to run program again, like you see right here, when we get there, it's going to say a message on the screen that says run program again, question mark, enter a wire and please. Now, you know as well as I do, even though I asked the user to do it that way, they may or they may not. They might put in yes, they might put in no, they might hit the enter key, they might put in something else. If they put in nothing, just hit enter. I'm going to call main to run the program again. Okay? All right. Otherwise, so I could make this an else. Maybe that's a little cleaner to put this in as an else. Now, what that means is I got to move all this stuff here over. That's fine. But let's look at what this is doing. I'm going to take whatever I've entered in here. Let's say I put in the word yes, and I put it in lowercase. It's going to take whatever I enter here, and it's going to put it into uppercase. So now I'll have a capital Y, a capital E, and a capital S. But I only want the first character, because all I'm checking for is either a Y or not a Y. So the first character is going to be that first one that we put in here. Remember, if we put nothing in, we already called main. So if we get down to here, we have to have entered at least one character. So we're going to grab that first character, and if it's not a Y, it means we don't want to run the program again. So for now, at least, we'll just clear and we'll exit the program. Otherwise, all right, otherwise we will do this. Now, where I'm running into problems here, so right now, I haven't done these two yet, and there's a reason I haven't. I'm going to go over that in just a bit. All right, but we have calculated the BMI, calculated the status, printed out the individual info. Now we've got the code for running the program again. And this print total counters, all right. Again, if again is going to be false, meaning in other words, if we return false here, we don't want to run the program again. All right. So if it's false here, if we get down to here, and if again is equal to false, so if again, I can do this two ways. I can say if again equal false, totally legit, but there's a shortcut here to say if not again. All right. Now don't worry, right here it says expected expression, and right here there's a problem with run program. It says run program again is not defined. You say, well, yeah, it's defined. It's defined down here. Run program again. Run program again. The problem is I want to stick that into a variable called again, and I'm not doing that right now. All right, so if I don't want to do this again, I'm going to take all this and just comment it out, and I might change it around later. All right, so if it's not a Y, I don't want to run the program again, so I will return false. If it is a Y, I want to run the program again, so I'll return true. All right, now I've got here if not again, and for some reason it doesn't like that. So again equal run program again. Okay, so and it's giving me all sorts of errors in here now. Usually that means that somehow I've goofed up. All right, now something is goofed up. We'll go over that in just a second. All right, this should be just fine the way it is. This, I'm going to change this around in just a second. Now, how can I change this around? If I don't want to run the program again, if I don't want to, all right, I can return false, totally fine. And now I can say, if again is false, I don't know if it'll give me an get rid of that error here or not. Okay, it didn't like how I was writing it before. So if again is equal to false, meaning I don't want to run it again, I'm going to call print total counters. All right. Oops. Else, I want to run this program again. So I'm going to try to say it like this. Else main. All right. Now, I want to see if the program works the way it currently is. The problem with it, as it currently is I don't have anything in my input height, and I don't have anything in my input weight. So I'm just going to put values in there to see if this works. So here for height, I'm going to return 72, and for weight, I'm going to return 200. All right, just because I want to see if this works or doesn't work. So File, Save All, and let's run it. All right, nothing like something, so let's see. Got a call to main there. There should be a call to main at the bottom, or did I not put that in? There's my call to main. And I was hoping I'd be getting output here, so it's calling main. Oh, I've got pass right there. I got to remove that pass. That's why. All right. File, Save All. Let's clear this. And let's run it. Okay, I'm still not getting anything. Height equals input height, which should call input height, and it should return 72. All right, then it should be calling weight equals input weight, and it should be returning 200. All right. Then it should be calling calculate BMI, and it should be using 72 for here and 200 for there. So let's look at that. So it should be returning 200 times 703 divided by 72 times 72. All right. Then whatever that number is, and let's say it's 25. Okay. All right, it should be passing that BMI of 25 to BMI status. So it should be saying it is greater than or equal to 25, so it should be saying overweight. All right. Then it should be printing the individual information. So the height, 72 inches, the weight, 200 pounds, the BMI, 25, the BMI status, overweight. And it should be asking the user if they want to run the program again, which should send it down here. And if we say no, the first character will not be a Y, so we should return false. Once we return false, we should call print total counters and pass each one of these into it. All right, now there's problems I can already see. Okay. When we create and print the BMI status, we do not only need to enter or to pass the BMI, but we need to pass all four of these counters. Okay, which is going to goof up the current call to that, but that's okay, we'll fix it. So this is calculate BMI status. So we need the BMI. We need the, what did we call those before? We call them under, optimal, over, and obese. I'll use the same names here. All right, so status is underweight. Under, which is our total number of underweights, plus equal 1. For our optimal, this will be optimal plus equal 1. For our overweight, this will be over plus equal 1. And for our obese, this will be obese plus equal 1. All right. Now, I'm not sure right now why it's not giving me any output, but it's not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause, take a pause right here. I'm 51 minutes in already, and I'll just make this a two-parter. All right. When I come back, I want to figure out why. Well, I'll try one more thing first. Where we're inputting the height and weight, let's just change this to height equals 72. And we'll comment this out. And for the weight, we'll say weight equals 200. And we'll comment this out. Now let's see if it's going to work or not. Okay, so file, save all, and let's run it. I want to clear this and run it again. It's not printing me out anything. Which, you know, I'm not getting any errors, and that's good. But I'm wondering if I've commented something out in here that I need. These global variables are now all gone. Okay, so it makes it a little cleaner to read. Total underweight, total optimal weight, total overweight, total obese. Height equals 72. Trying to figure out why it's not giving me values in there. Shouldn't have to do this. Wait, okay. Just gonna bring me, I'm just gonna make this pass. And I'm gonna make this pass for now. Print individual BMI info, height, weight, BMI status. Run program again. I'm looking for something in here, a reason I'm not getting any output whatsoever. I don't see it right now. So file, save all, run, and as you can see, I'm getting no output at all. So I'm going to take a break and see if I can figure out why I'm not getting any output. I'll come back with part 2 of this BMI lecture in just a few minutes.